In the pits living my dream. I don't think that they're ready. 51 podcast. Let's go. This is Cap Houston right here. Bobby, what you got for me?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Bobby. Unfortunately, Christy was not able to make it today. Um, so I'm here by myself with the one, the only David Reagan, and I'm looking forward to talking to him about some amazing things. His partnership with Ford, his car collection. We're going to talk about Kyle Busch and David Reagan, and also a couple other things. So, with that being said, welcome, David, and thank you for coming on 51 Races Podcast.
Yeah, what's up, Bobby? And yeah, thanks for having me on. I know we've been talking about getting together for a little while, so I'm glad it worked out to catch up and have some fun conversations.
Absolutely. So, my first question I have for you is, can you tell us about how you got involved in racing growing up? Also, I, I kind of heard a rumor that your dad sold his car, and then you turned around and bought it back later on in your career. Is
Yeah, so
so I want to see
that
if you can fill us in on all that good stuff.
yeah, that is true. I grew up in a racing family. My dad actually raced in 50 NASCAR Winston Cup Series races from like 19 early 1980s to 1989, 1990. So as a kid, I remember him and my uncle and some family members, local friends going to the racetrack and racing a little bit at the NASCAR level, but a lot at the short track level around the state of Georgia. As I got to be a little older, he was in a few pretty bad accidents, 1986, 1988, broke his neck, broke his legs, his back up a couple of times, and so he slowly found himself staying more home, racing a little bit less. And myself and my older brother, we played some sports and did some things in our local community back home in Unadilla, Georgia. So I grew up around the racetrack some, but I grew up around a local racetrack, Cordele Motor Speedway. My dad and my uncle owned the wrecker service and the parts store that supplied a lot of the engine work, the machine work for local racers. So I definitely grew up around racing some, but I didn't drive my first race car until I was almost 12 years old. A Bandolero car at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and really fell in love with working on the cars, the competition, driving the cars. And as I got a little older in my teenage years, I started taking it more and more serious. But to answer your question, yes, my dad had always had some older cars that they would restore and drive for a little while, then sell and trade and things like that. And so he did have an old mid-year 1966 Corvette that they had worked several years on disassembling, taking it all the way down to the chassis, rebuilding it with a lot of the numbers matching parts and pieces. And so we needed some money to go racing and we needed room in the garage. So he sold that car when I was a teenager. And then it worked out about 10 years down the road. The car had changed hands a couple of times. I was able to locate it through running the VIN number, found the guy that owned it in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and called him and offered to buy it back, told the story, and he did sell it back to me. And We gave it to my dad for I think a Father's Day deal several years afterwards. So yeah, it was a neat story to be able to get that car back. And we still have it today. It's still sitting in our shop today, and we do get to drive it on occasion.
That's awesome. That's a full circle event too. Like I bet your dad was like, "That's my car."
Yeah, he didn't know that it was the car originally. He thought, man, this looks just like the car that we were restoring. And then there were a couple of small details with like the door hinges, maybe something that they had to trim on one side to get the door jambs to fit just right, and a couple of odd and end things that he could remember going to car swaps and swap meets to try to find the right uh, radio or the right steering wheel or things like that. So yeah, when he realized it was actually the car, yeah, that was pretty cool. So it's been fun for he and my mom to be able to drive it around some, and certainly, I have memories of that car when I was a little boy running around, seeing him and a few other guys working on it, in the evenings and on the weekends.
So I know you're part of the Shriners. Can you tell us about like how like it first of all, how'd you get involved? And then second of all, like how cool was it to have them on as a partner in NASCAR, like throughout the teams you were with?
Yeah, my uncle, Marvin Reagan, was a Shriner, and as a kid, you saw the Shriners in your local parade. You knew a little bit about the fraternity side, but I didn't really know much about Shriners Children's, the hospital part of Shriners International. And so, as I really got a little older, I knew a little bit about it, but really the catalyst that made me look into it a little more was going into my rookie season. I was going to be one of the Coca-Cola Racing family drivers, and they have the Chug for Charity program that you get on TV with a Coca-Cola, and every time you take a sip of it, Coca-Cola would monitor that time, and they would award a certain dollar amount in real money to your charity of choice. And so I didn't really know what to do, and I had to submit a charity for that to be tied to, and someone recommended that I visit a Shriners Hospitals for Children. And so my dad and I visited the one in Tampa, Florida, before my rookie season. So this would have been in late 2006, maybe early 2007. And yeah, I got to see the kids and the families and hear some of the stories about how, the Shriners really, saved some lives of kids that didn't have a good outlook, that their parents didn't know what to do or how to pay for some of these surgeries. And the Shriners were there to help them improve the quality of life of the kids so they could live a prosperous and a more enjoyable life. And they did all this regardless of the family's ability to pay, regardless of what insurance said. And so I thought, man, what a great group, a group of fraternal men around the world that raise money and awareness for these hospitals, and so man, this is just a perfect fit. So I really had a great experience getting to visit a lot of the hospitals here in North America. Um, and I'm actually a member of the Shriners fraternity now. We've got a great the Oasis Shriners here in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're one of the best temples around the country. But yeah, incredible group of men and women who do a lot of orthopedic, and burn is really their specialty for young children. So boys and girls that have some type of a burn, or maybe an orthopedic need, a spinal cord injury, something like that. They've got so many smart doctors, and they also invest a lot of time and money and research into to new technology and helping kids walk better as they grow, and prosthetics. They make all kinds of cool prosthetic limbs that allow these boys and girls to be able to live a pretty normal life. And so, yeah, I still get to work with them some. Having, the Shriners on my race car several times throughout the years was a lot of fun, and making a lot of friends that, were patients. Some of them have grown up now. They're, 20 years old, 25 years old. And it's neat to see that how the Shriners children's have changed their course of life. And it's always fun to meet those families. And yeah, there's a lot of great Shriners out there that love the children, and it's neat to play a small part in raising some money and raising awareness for such a good cause.
Well, next time I'm in the Charlotte area, I'm gonna have to get a hold of you, and maybe we'll make that trip out there so I can see it also, because it would be really neat to see. Like,
Yeah, yeah. There's 22 hospitals and medical centers here in North America. They've got some medical centers in Mexico, some in Canada, Central America. So I mean, their reach is pretty far. And yeah, anytime you go to one of those hospitals, it doesn't feel like a normal hospital that's kind of sad and dark and gloomy. I mean, it's definitely a bright, cheerful, happy place that a lot of good things happen. So yeah, I've learned a lot. Makes you fortunate. Every day you can wake up and have the strength and the ability to do what you want to do is certainly a blessing. So I think it's important to give back to some of those young boys and girls and their families that have had an accident or maybe even born with an issue that needs a little bit of adjusting.
absolutely. Now, I can see behind you the motorcycles. So, can you tell us about the Kyle Petty charity that you do? I mean, how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, I'm sitting in my girls' schoolroom here at my house, and yeah, we've got some random stuff hanging up. But yeah, a picture of actually that is maybe probably 10 years ago. Myself, Richard Petty is on the trike right there, and then that's Kyle Petty leading. I think maybe that's me over there, but we're actually at Pocono Speedway making a lap around the racetrack. And my first Kyle Petty charity ride was in 2016, and I wish that I would have gone on some of those rides earlier. Kyle was a buddy of mine. I got to race with him some in the Cup Series back in 2006, 2007 before he retired. And certainly, Richard Petty's a hero of so many, and he's a living legend. That's cool to see him around the racetrack and get to spend time with him. But yeah, 2016 got to ride with Kyle and Ken Schrader and Harry Gant and some of those, so the generation that I grew up watching was a lot of fun. And then, getting to know Kyle, and I never got to race with Adam Petty, Kyle's son, but, that's where the Victory Junction camp kind of got started with Adam's interest in helping, young kids have that summer camp experience. And now it's grown into a really neat deal where they've got a lot of different kids from all over the country come in for a week of camp. And this Kyle Petty charity ride is a motorcycle enthusiast and a philanthropist that just love to spend money, ride motorcycles, all to send a lot of kids to camp free of charge to let them experience something really neat. So that's a beautiful camp. And Kyle and Morgan Petty do a great job of having this motorcycle ride in different parts of the country. We get to see some beautiful things, and it's really neat. It raises millions of dollars for Victory Junction Camp, and we just got finished with this year's ride. I got to ride a few days. I wasn't able to ride all the way across the country. They started in Sonoma, California, and came all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina. But I got to ride a few days, and it's fun to get out there and see some old friends and see some of the beautiful parts of the country, while raising a lot of money for kids. And the Shriners do partner with Victory Junction. They send some of the Shriners patients to Victory Junction for a special week during the summer. So that's a neat connection that I have. But yeah, that's always a lot of fun. My wife comes with me some, and well, one of these days we'll get to ride maybe the whole ride, but we usually are on parts of the ride for 3 or 4 days.
I was gonna say, I think last year you guys came through Ohio, if I'm not mistaken, and you actually drove or rode right past our house. And I'm
Nice.
like, man, I really want to hop in the truck and go follow them and see where they get stopped because I think you guys were going to Sandusky, and
That's
I never
right.
did. And I'm like, dang. And then I found out Kenny Wallace was there and you were there, I believe, and I'm like, dang, I should have went.
Yeah, there's a lot of fans that come to some of our overnight stops and obviously get to meet, some cool race car drivers and even some other celebrities. Herschel Walker has always been on the ride for many years. He's a buddy of Kyle Petty's and the great running back for Georgia Bulldogs and the Dallas Cowboys. So yeah, you never know who you might pop up and see on the charity ride.
Clint Boyer was there this year, I believe.
That's right. Yep, yep. Clint and Mike Helton was there, and actually Bill Davidson, the grandson of the Harley Davidson family, and Bill was there with his wife, and got to see a really cool motorcycle that he was driving. So yeah, lot of neat things, and I think we just had our 30th anniversary. So I know Kyle's probably already excited to start planning next year's.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. So this is a question from Chrissy. Um, how has your relationship with NASCAR changed from when you first started to where you are now? Anything you miss about the early days?
I mean, I'm a NASCAR fan. I love stock car racing. I love the test of equipment, the test of drivers, focus, how fast they can go, the pit crew, the strategy. So I enjoy motorsports. I enjoy racing of all kinds, not only, stock car racing. I follow along with some, grassroots, short track, dirt car racing, drag racing, open wheel racing, a little bit of everything. I've got a cousin who did some offshore powerboat racing for several years. So, anything that goes fast is fun to watch. But NASCAR has been really good to me and my family. My dad made a living in the sport of NASCAR for several years, made a lot of really good friends and good relationships, and certainly I'm very grateful that I was able to find my position in the world of motorsports and be able to have a driving career for a long time. I've had a lot of fun working with Fox Sports on their NASCAR programming for a few years, and then now, working with Ford and doing some of their testing and simulator development, helping the Truck Series guys and girls at the racetrack a little bit has been a fun way for me to still be involved in the sport of NASCAR. So I think that the sport of NASCAR is healthy. I think there's still millions of fans out there that want to watch and see what it is, but it's always going to be evolving. So I do think that more southern kind of localized grassroots stock car racing that I watched as a kid, that's just no more. I mean, we're going to San Diego soon to race on a Navy base. We've had street course racing. We've got international drivers that are finding some success, and I mean, we were televised on a streaming platform, so it's definitely changed a lot over the past 10 or 15 years. But no, I still find myself every weekend, keeping up with the sport. I think again, the sport's in a healthy place. It has some good leadership. It's got some big superstars, some really interesting, people that are competing and race team owners. And so, yeah, I love being a part of the motorsports world. And thank you to, groups like you guys that help cover and tell the story and not only for the guys and girls that are racing on Saturdays and Sundays, but all the other types of motorsports that kind of feed in to NASCAR or IndyCar racing here in North America. I mean, there's millions of drivers and mechanics and crew chiefs and content creators and everything that are at the local go-kart track or at the local sprint car track. And so it's neat to hear those stories. And yeah, I think the motorsports industry is still alive and well here in North America.
So you brought up the simulator. So what's the difference between now using a simulator to run these tracks, right? Compared to when you were racing and you guys really didn't have a simulator or anything like that to kind of guide you.
Yeah, the simulator really started kind of evolving in like 2014, 15, 16. And it was something that initially was a glorified video game. I mean, you had the full motion aspect, but trying to create the vehicle models that were accurate to what we were driving was the hard part because you had to build those models from, your aero perspective, building a tire model and the engine power curves and the braking. I mean, there were hundreds of different data points that you had to get right to be the same vehicle that you were driving or racing on the weekends. And so that's really been the evolution the past 10 to 15 years. And so I've enjoyed watching that evolution. I think that some of the drivers that are a little older than I am, I never really got to see that. But the young drivers today, that's all they know. I mean, they spend hours every single week, debriefing the previous race, prepping for the upcoming race. Some drivers hop on sims at their own leisure to just have fun and go racing. And I do think it's a good tool, just like some other tools that the drivers have. But now it's a tool that the race teams can use to help develop setups. The engine shops can use to help develop maybe different engine parameters. And so yeah, it's definitely something that it still needs some work to be perfected, but it's really really close. The track scans are really good. Just so much detail goes in to creating that system that is accurate to what the guys and girls are going to strap in and go race, on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So again, I've enjoyed watching that evolution. It's changed a lot, and I think with the technology all around us, in the world that we live in, it'll continue to get better and better. And man, that's a tool that you can use right here, close to home or in the race shop, and you don't have to fly around the country and burn up fuel and burn tires and wreck race cars trying to learn stuff. I still think there's value in being at the racetrack and driving, but I do think you can learn a lot on the sim tools that are available today.
Now, Chrissy sent me this other one. It says, when you look back on your career, all moment some people overlook but still think about.
The one that everybody brings up pretty often is the Daytona 500, where I was leading at the end and got black flagged on the green white checkered for changing lanes before the start finish line. That's something that's um, that was a hard pill to swallow in the moment, but it's something you can kind of sit back and laugh about today. But just, probably how close we were to winning the Coke 600 in 2011. That was a race just, held a week or two ago. And we finished second that night. We had fresh tires. That's the race that Dale Jr. ran out of gas, I think, coming off of turn two. Harvick was able to take the checkered flag, but he was on the same fuel strategy as Dale was, he was going to run out in another lap or half a lap. So, we had fresh tires. We were coming. So that was a race that I wish we could have won. That would have been really cool. And yeah, on occasion they'll replay that race, and I'll get a few text messages or something that people are watching it. But yeah, that's definitely a race that we could have won, should have won, but came up a little bit short. But we don't hear about it that often.
Now, I know we're running out of time, but I want to bring up this, and I brought it up when we first started that I wanted to talk to you about Kyle Busch and yourself. In 2015, Kyle has that bad accident. You fill in for multiple races. How how is that filling in for Kyle? And I believe it was in the 18 car, if I'm not mistaken, in the M&M's car or the green M&M's car.
That's
Um,
right.
but how was it working with Kyle, and how is the inspiration and him monitoring what you were doing and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle and I were buddies beforehand. We were similar in age. We raced. When I came into the sport, he was already a NASCAR winner in all top three divisions. So you knew he was going to be a special talent, even his first couple of years into the series. But he's someone I certainly looked up to. But we got along. Our girlfriends, now wives, were friends, and so we would spend some time together off the racetrack. We'd vacation some together. We were both young and married and didn't have kids, so we had a lot of things in common. And yeah, when he broke his leg and I was able to fill in for a few weeks, that was a good point of my career because I'd been at Front Row Motorsports for a couple of years. We won the race at Talladega in 2013, but we didn't have a great 2014, and I was at a point where I knew I probably wasn't going to get a chance to go drive for one of the top teams again, and I was still trying to kind of scrap and claw my way back to a competitive race car and a team, and so that was a point that kind of rejuvenated my passion for driving and allowed me to have some good races and some good runs that I kind of felt like, yeah, I still belong in the Cup Series. And so, getting to work with Adam Stevens was really cool. But Kyle was so engaged, even though he wasn't at the track. He was back at his house. They had a computer and the radios all set up for him. So, we could talk on the race weekends. And even some during the race or during the weekend, he would text, or we would jump on a phone call and chat about his previous race experience at certain tracks. And then even after I left and drove for Michael Waltrip Racing the rest of that year, I still got to work with Kyle and that team pretty close because I was still under the Toyota umbrella, and we did some testing together, and it was neat to see them win the championship in Homestead that year. So, Kyle, definitely will go down in the history books as one of the greatest drivers ever. I think what he was able to achieve and all the racing that he did was remarkable. All the short track racing and even developing some dirt car stuff the last several years. I think is a neat thing, and he certainly wasn't done winning races and chasing the checkered flag. So it's heartbreaking to see how it all went down. But it's a good reminder that life isn't guaranteed, and every day's a blessing, and you better make the best of it. And I think Kyle would want us to go out there and go racing and go work hard to try to be better. So I think we'll always remember Kyle, and I want to throw Kurt in there too. I mean, that brother combo was just as good, if not better, than the Allison brothers, or some of the other the Wallace brothers that have raced in the years. So yeah, Kyle was super smart, a fast driver, and yeah, had a beautiful family. So tragic to see how it all ended prematurely. But while he was here on this earth, he definitely made it known what kind of skills he had, and how tough he was behind the wheel.
Yeah, Kyle's definitely a legend in the sport, and he will be truly missed. And I believe Brexton will be at one point in time be in the Cup Series, and he will be chasing a championship. I can see it.
Yeah, Brexton definitely has some of that natural ability, and I think a lot of people will be cheering for Brexton and want to see him succeed. And I think he's old enough where he's learned a lot of things from his dad. So yeah, I look forward to seeing him back at the racetrack, and I know he'll have a lot of people in his corner pulling for him.
Absolutely. Now I do have one last question, and I was thinking about this and how I wanted to bring it up. What is your top two favorite paint schemes that you had throughout your career?
Oh man. You know, I've uh I've got to have some cool cars, some cars that were unique, some cars that just looked good. You remember the cars that were fast. probably the neatest thing, and I cherish a lot, was in 2011, we sat on the pole for the Indy race, and that was a Ned Jarrett Hall of Fame tribute car. So Ned was inducted to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2011. And so that was really neat. Ned was there at the racetrack that weekend. We got to take some pictures, holding the pole flag and go to the media center, and obviously driving for UPS. UPS and Coca-Cola was still a big part of our program then. So yeah, the Ned Jarrett car at Indy was probably, and it wasn't like a fancy paint scheme. It was a solid blue, and it had some white wheels that we qualified on. But that was a neat car. I've got a big picture of that car at my office, so I get to see that a lot. But this is and I just saw a photo of this a few weeks ago, and it reminded me of how pretty it was. It was a Coca-Cola 600 start. You'll have to look this up online and show it to everyone. But Select Blinds, and I think it was 2000 and maybe 18, maybe 19, but it was for Front Row Motorsports. My last couple of years of racing, they had a patriotic paint scheme, red, white, and blue, stars and stripes. But it was the Select Blinds Ford, and it was a Coca-Cola 600, and it was a beautiful car. We actually led some late in the race. We were on a little different strategy, and we led a few laps, and we were leading with like 5 or 6 laps to go, and Martin Truex passed us, and I think Truex ended up winning, but we might have finished 10th or 11th, 12th, something like that. But it was a really good looking car, and yeah, someone just showed that to me a few weeks ago, and that was definitely one of my top five cars. My kids think my Sweet Frog car that I drove a Sweet Frog. That's like a frozen yogurt chain here in the Southeast, and that they love my Sweet Frog ice cream car.
Now, my favorite car would have to be your Boston Red Sox car.
All right, now that's a good one. That's a good. I got to drive that around the warning track at Fenway Park.
Is the Select Blinds the one with they had the flames, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, I think I found it. Um, this one, correct?
Red, white, and blue. Yep, that's it. Yeah, I always thought that was a real pretty. Just it stood out. It was super bright under the light. So I really like that car.
Now, I know I don't want to hold you up, so I want to thank you very much for coming on today, and we'll have to get you back on when Chrissy's able to be able to be here with us.
There
She's
you
really
go.
bummed out that she missed this episode, but I appreciate everything and having you on, and thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Well, Prissy, we hate that you weren't able to jump on tonight, but thanks for chiming in with a few questions, and yeah, thank you guys for having us on. It's fun to come back and talk a little racing, and I know some of my fans appreciate me jumping on some of these on occasion and chatting a little bit. So yeah, we'll have to do it again, and yeah, if any of the fans are out there, I do come to a few truck races throughout the year. I enjoy the Truck Series guys. Our Ford F-150s are running really well this year. So if you ever see me around the racetrack on a Friday or Saturday night watching a truck race, don't be afraid to come by and say hello.
You gonna be at Michigan real quick?
I will not be in Michigan. I'm going to take the weekend off. We've got some stuff with the kids going on, but we will be out in San Diego. We're going to have the NASCAR electric race cars out there doing a little demonstration stuff, and then yeah, I'm going to stick around for the truck race on Friday night and watch some action. So yeah, I'll be at a few races this summer.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. We were in Daytona for my first ever 500, and Carson Hocevar was over in the corner, and you were doing burnouts or taking off with the electric car, and we watched for a little bit, and we're like, cool.
Yeah, it that's a whole nother I'm sure a topic for another night. But I've enjoyed getting to drive that car, and I think we've got some time before that car evolves to something that race fans will see some more of them, on the track at some point. But like I tell everyone, the internal combustion engine is certainly not going anywhere in the world of stock car racing and NASCAR. So I think it'll be a cool project to see around some. I've enjoyed getting to drive them. Like I said earlier, I love all kinds of cars that go fast and it doesn't make a lot of noise, but it does go fast and it's fun. So I appreciate appreciate you asking about that, and yeah, maybe we can chat about that on one of the next time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, you guys have a good night. Thank you.
All right, you too. All right. Well, that was David Reagan. Chrissy, we miss you. Um, wish you could have been here for this. Um, before we sign off, don't forget, learn more about this great charity we support in Florida, the Florida Sheriff's Youth Branches, who for almost 70 years have been providing help, a home, and a future for abused, neglected, and at-risk youth. You can learn more at youthbranches.org. I'd like to give a shout out to all of our partners who make the podcast possible: Spartan Waste, Anamore Designs, Action RV, Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranch, Circle B Diecast, and don't forget Circle B Diecast when you go to their website. Use the code AREA51 and get $6 off your shipping. Race Day Authentics, Alliance Driveway Solutions, Perrysburg Pipe, Matrix Apparel, Runner's Roost, Barbershop Ministries, Fox Sports Spartanburg, Belcher Cheesecake Creations, Matman Designs, Collins Model Garage, and CRI, Club Racing Inc. They're at Michigan this weekend. That's Friday at 5 o'clock. Tune in. Maybe you'll see me on the pit road again. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and we will see you guys next week. And look forward to talking to you all soon.